Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about something that makes the narcissist not stop thinking about you. It causes them to always have you on their mind. And instantly you're going to know when this is taking place, when this is happening. Because when they've assigned you to a specific purpose for them, when they're using you as an active appliance, you're not going to be able to think about yourself independently of them. Your mind, your emotions, because they're thinking about you. And this is just how it works energetically. When someone is thinking about you, you're going to be thinking about them. And I'm going to explore this in greater detail with you so that it begins to make more sense, so that you can see how this links, how this connects. Because yes, this is something that makes them not thinking about you. They can't stop thinking about you because they are using you as an active appliance. You're not someone that they have on the shelf. And it's really your qualities, your kindness and compassion. Because they don't have that, they can't be vulnerable, they can't be open. And this is how they could never emotionally connect with you. Because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to be open where you're then able to read them, where you can then read into their emotions, into what's going on in their minds. They don't want to be open like that with you. So they shut themselves off. They're disconnected from them. Stay stable and secure. Of course, they need an external regulator. And that's where you come in. They've assigned you for that purpose. So they're always thinking about you. They're always thinking about when they're next going to use you, if they're not using you already, for these qualities, for your kindness, your compassion, your empathy. They're using you for all of this because that is what is regulating them. That's what's keeping them under control. It's keeping them calm. It's keeping them stable and secure. And this is how you begin to feel like you're walking on eggshells around the narcissist. You become very worried, very concerned about setting them off because they're very easily offended and upset. So you begin to tone yourself down. You become quiet. And why are you doing that? Of course, you're doing it to pacify, to soothe the narcissist, to stay on their good terms, because they're using you as a source of supply. To validate them, the false self, to make themselves feel powerful and in control. And they may see that as a source of power. They may see it as though they've got you under control. They've got you where they want you. They've got you backed into a corner. But actually, no. They're at your mercy. They're now heavily dependent on you. You become their life force. You become their emotional regulator to where they can't do without you. They need you. And this is why they can't stop thinking about you. This is why you're always on their minds. This is why they cannot let you go. This is why they've got to keep you under control. This is why they've always got to know where you are, what you're doing, who you are. so that they can try and contain you, so that they can keep you under their control, because then they feel in control of themselves. And this is why you may feel trauma bonded to them. You may feel like you're under a spell. You may feel like you're their puppet. You may feel like you can't think independently of them, as though you're attached to them. Because to some degree they are attached to you. They are using you as a puppet, as an appliance. They're actively using you to sustain themselves, to keep themselves regulated, to keep themselves under control. So it's your kindness, your compassion, your empathy, your supply. The way that when they tell you to do something, you do it. No questions asked. You just go along with it. You're kind, you're friendly, you're pleasant and agreeable. When they say jump, you say how high. This creates an addiction for them. It trauma bonds them to you. It keeps them stuck on you to where they cannot get over you. Because they're using you for that. They're using you for your kindness and compassion to where they become addicted to it. And it retards them. It destabilizes them in some ways. Or rather, I should say, it disables them. It renders them ineffective as it pertains to themselves, in taking care of themselves, regulating themselves. It makes it impossible for them to do that, because now they've given whatever power they had over to you. They put you in the driver's seat. They put you as the captain of the ship that is their life. Now you're running the show for them, because they're not in charge, they're not in control of their emotions. They put you there. They put you in the driver's seat. And now you're running the show. You're running the show. You're taking control over their minds, their bodies, their lives. You're doing all of that for them. And because they lack self-awareness, because they're not fully conscious, they may not even realize it. They may not even see it. They may just see it as though they've got power over you. But what they're not seeing is that actually, no, in many ways, they are your puppet. They're under your control. They're trauma bonded to you. They're addicted to you. And that's how they often can't let you go. And they continue using you as an active appliance in their lives. You become their primary source of supply. Because they need you, they're dependent on you. For your kindness and compassion, for your supply. And this causes them to not stop thinking about you. It causes you to always be on their minds, to where they cannot let you go. They cannot stop thinking about you. They obsess over you. Because they need you, they're dependent on you. They cannot function without you as this tool, this appliance, this external regulator. They just can't survive. They can't function. Emotional regulation process causes them to not stop thinking about you. This is what causes you to always be on their minds, to where they can't let you go, to where they become very jealous, possessive, and controlling, to where if you reject them, they may even stalk and harass you. They may not leave you alone. They may keep coming after you. They may be very persistent. And sometimes it can get dangerous. It can escalate to where they may even become abusive in an attempt to control you and to keep that kindness and compassion that they're getting from you, or at least to get you to submit to them. So at least you obey their commands, because that's what they need from you. Because they cannot control themselves. They cannot regulate themselves. They have to render those processes to you. And this is why, what do? They often dump so many things onto you, so many duties and responsibilities. I mean, you may have had an easygoing, carefree life before you got involved with them. And then all of a sudden, you've got all of these duties, all of these things to worry about. You've got so many things to do, so many things to take care of that you never had to worry about before. And it's like you're dealing with a big baby, an emotional toddler in an adult's body. It's like you've got to burp them, feed them, change their nappy. It's like you've got to do all of that for them now. Because that's just it. They can't do it for themselves. They can't take care of themselves. They've rendered all of that over to you. They've given you the power, you the control over their emotional processes, things that they could not do for themselves. So of course, they're going to be thinking about you. I mean, like their medicine. Of course, they worry about where their medicine is, or if they've ran out of medicine, they're going to be thinking about how can they get more? When are they going to get more? And they're going to be taking that medicine every day because they need it to function, to survive. So how can they not stop thinking about you? It's like you're their pharmacist. And not only that, but you hold a position of authority, of power in their lives. And many of you, you don't even realize it. You're not even aware. Because of course, they will never tell you that. And this is why they devalue you. They try to make you feel small. Because they don't want you to know how much they need you, how dependent they are on you. For your kindness, for your compassion, or at the very least, your submission and compliance. They get your kindness and compassion initially, but then, of course, once you begin to see what's underneath the mask and they devalue you, then they have to settle for submission and compliance, for respect rather than love. But either way, as long as you're going out along with it, as long as you are following their agenda, as long as you're giving them what they want, as long as you are regulating their emotions, because that's what they need from you. They need you to make them feel better, to make them feel calm, stable, secure. Because they cannot regulate themselves. And why can't they regulate themselves? They can't generate their own power and energy from within. And they can't generate their own power and energy from within because they operate with a false self. They have no true identity. They have no true self. Because think about it like this. If they had a true self, they could just generate it from within. They could self-regulate. Or they would be able to be vulnerable. They would have the strength to be vulnerable, to connect and to resolve things that way. But they can't do either of those things because they have no self And even outside of narcissists, this is so common these days. Honestly, I would say, cut off again, sorry about that. I'm trying the Wi-Fi and also the data on my phone. Okay, I think we're back. Yes, I was saying that I would say 99% of people in this world do not have a self. And there is one psychologist, I can't remember his name at the moment, but even he said that most people in the world do not have a self. They don't know who they are. There's nothing that they can generate from within. And this is why they're so easily stressed out. This is how they blow up so easily. And they make everything your fault. They put so much pressure onto you. Because there's so much pressure building up inside themselves. Even though there may not be so much going on around them. They may not have to deal with even a fraction of what you're dealing with. And yet they still pressure you. They still dump duties and responsibilities onto you. Things that you should not be responsible for. Things that you should not have to deal with. And why do they do that? They do it because you have a self. And they do not have a self. There's nothing that they can conjure up from within. There's nothing that they can generate. And this is how you will notice that many of these types of people, even outside of a narcissist, they lack originality. They lack creativity. It's like they're just doing whatever everyone else is doing. They're just following trends. There's nothing that they can create of their own. Or they can't even put a spin on something. They can't take something else and make it their own, because, you know, that's creativity as well. And it's because they have no self. They have nothing to generate from within. They've got to get it from someone else. They've got to get it from your kindness, your compassion. And that's what they use you for. And it causes them to not stop thinking about you. And I'm sure you can hear there's a lot of noise coming from above. It always begins when I start a video. So if I do seem quite irritated, it's because there's noise coming from all over the ceiling and everything. It was going on all last night and this morning. But yeah, I did explain that in yesterday's video. But what normally helps is if I talk about it, and then normally you won't hear it starts to go a bit quieter. Because they just need a bit of attention. They need to know that, you know, I'm paying attention to them. And then they can calm down a bit then. But yeah, this is how it is with narcissists. This is what makes them not stop thinking about you. Because they've got to get that from you. They've got to get your energy, your compassion. They need it to sustain themselves. Because they cannot sustain themselves on their own. How can they when they have no self? They are empty vessels. Empty vessels make the most noise. There's nothing that they can generate from within. And yet they still have a body. They still have a brain. So they've got to get that life from someone. And of course, that can come from your kindness, your compassion, your accommodating nature, or even just from your submission or compliance. They're still getting something from you. You're laying something down for them. You're being their doormat. You're letting them walk over you. So yeah, this is what they need you for. This is what they cannot live without. This is their supply. This is what keeps them going. This is what fuels them. Your kindness and compassion, or your submission or compliance, you obeying them, you conforming to them, to their agenda. This is what keeps them going, because they can't generate it from within. And it's not like with you, how you may have all of these things going on in your life, all of these problems that they've caused. You may be dealing with smear campaigns, gang stalking. I mean, of course, no one person can deal with all of that. It's impossible. So that's a completely different situation. Of course, that's going to affect you. It's going to destabilize you. And you're going to feel like you've got to get your side of you, because who can bear that burden? Who can carry that weight, that pressure? Just one person. It's just unrealistic. But be careful with that as well, because that's what narcissists will do. They will make you carry the weight of the world, and then just blame you when you collapse under its pressure, because they're completely delusional. And they will expect you to deal with 1,000,000 times more than what they can handle, because they're delusional, they're unrealistic, and they have a very strong sense of entitlement. And also, again, you're very kind, you're compassionate, you're compliant. They're able to play on your empathy, to guilt trip you. Because many of us, I believe that we are chosen ones. I believe that we have unlimited power. We can take on almost anything, we can do pretty much anything. So of course it makes sense for them to have such high, unrealistic expectations for us, while having such low expectations for themselves. That makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Just move it around, because the movement helps with the energy. Energy is movement. Movement is energy. So it's good to keep moving. Because that's what you'll find is when you're under a lot of pressure, when you're being harassed, when you're being abused, it's like it transfers all of this negative energy onto you, and it stays stuck in your body unless you move around. And that could be anything. Just move about, just exercise, just do something. Go hiking, stretch, just keep your body moving. Don't stay stuck in one place. And this is why I like to move around as much as I can. I travel to different countries, because when you're around these types of people, the energy settles into the environment. It affects everyone and everything. And honestly, I start to see it. I look around and the trees, the plants don't look as green as they did before. The sand on the beach doesn't look as white, as yellow. And just people's faces start to look more miserable, even less attractive. I see this happening. Now then I know it's time to go. Because of course, one person, there's so much energy, so much light that we can bring to an environment. And of course, this light brings out their demons. It brings out that toxicity. But you know what might help is if I put my earphones in, because as you may have seen in past videos, once I tune out the noise, because this is real, has happened outside of my mind. I then become I feel a lot more confident, a lot more grounded within myself. Because that's just it. I mean, when you've got someone who's just sitting above your head all day, just constantly tapping the floor, dropping things, it just messes with your head. You just go straight. So it can help to have earphones just to tune the noise out. Because of course, a lot of energy is transferred through our ears. And then it can go down into the throat. Like with me now, it's causing my throat to get very tight, making it difficult for me to speak. So I'm just gonna put the phone here, take a sip of water. But yeah, this is what it's like when you're dealing with these people. They may not specifically target the kindest, most compassionate people specifically, because they can't really know until they get involved with them. But here's what they do. They target a number of people, and then whoever doesn't fight back, whoever goes along with it, whoever conforms to their agenda, whoever is kind, whoever is compassionate, that's the one that they keep. That's the one that they mistreat, that they abuse. Get a bit louder, so I'm going to use this, the noise cancellation. Tunes it out even more. But yeah, they target the kindest, most compassionate people to do these things to. And this is why when you look around at the world, there's just so many miserable, envious, jealous people. So many toxic, dysfunctional people who exploit others for their own personal gain. Narcissists in positions of power. Because they target people, and then they keep people like us and they destroy us. So most of the good people, empathic people, many of them may have committed suicide. Many of them may be in jail, mental hospitals, homeless. This is what happens to them. And now this is how everywhere in the world, people are struggling, people are suffering. People can't make ends meet. People can't take care of their families. Because this is what they do. This is what it's like. Because good people get targeted. They get abused, get mistreated, and all their potential gets destroyed. Everything that they could have done for the world, it just gets beaten out of them. And this is how the world ends up this way. Because unfortunately, most people in the world are like this. They see someone kind, they see someone compassionate, and all they can think about is how they're going to use them, how they're going to exploit them, how they're going to take as much as they can and leave them with a lot less than what they had, so that they're no good for anyone. Sadly, there's very few people in the world who, if they saw someone like that, would actually treat them with the love and respect that they deserve, so that they can continue uplifting people and just making this world better. And this is why this world today is so dark, it's so gloomy. This is why the world is this way. And And I know the noise is getting a bit louder. But it's not so much about what I'm talking about that's the issue. That's not what causes all the noise to come in. It's more because with narcissists, it's more about the self-image. So they don't like you to look good or to feel good about how you're coming across to people. As I spoke about in my first video, the first video I ever made, the narcissist doesn't want you to look or feel good. It's all about the self-image. It doesn't matter what they say to you. It doesn't matter what they say is wrong, what they say is the problem. It's your self-image. It's how they think you perceive yourself, and also possibly how they think other people might perceive you. Because they're very concerned about their own self-image and their own reputation. And of course, theirs is fake. Yours is real, yours is genuine. So they want to destroy your true self, your true image, to bolster up their own ego. So this is why they do what they do. It's more to do with your self-image. That's what they can't stand. That's what they're jealous of. That's what they wish they had for themselves. And it may sound kind of corny, but this is how they see it. Or cringy. They see it as though you look cool, you look handsome, you look beautiful. You look like someone who would inevitably be successful, would have a lot of friends, would do well for yourself. As though you just got a better shot at life. You've got better genes, you've got better genetics. You've just got stronger confidence, stronger belief in yourself. And yeah, they don't feel good about it. Makes them feel very jealous because it's not like that for them. And that's really a big part of it. That's what causes them to become so possessive and controlling, to where they can't leave things alone. They've always got to interfere. They've always got to disrupt. They've always got to fiddle around with things. They just can't leave things alone. Because of your self-image and how it makes them feel about themselves, it makes them feel like something is wrong with them. So in order for something to not be wrong with them, something must be wrong with you. And then that alleviates their discomfort of feeling like something is wrong with them. So it's all about deflecting the shame. If this is making sense to you, give it a thumbs up. Let's make sure this video gets out there to as many people as possible. Everyone has to see this. Everyone needs to be aware of this. Now let's see what people are saying in the live chat. No moderators, so I'm sure there's a bunch of trolls in queue. The first comment I saw in the live chat was a troll who had one name and then told me to do a shout out for a different name. Probably to try and confuse me, to throw me off guard so that it then disrupts the rest of the video. And also there's usually a troll right at the end before I end the live videos, who usually says something, usually a projection about whatever I just mentioned in the video. They always like to have the last word, the final say, so that it leaves you feeling shame, feeling like something is wrong with you. It's all about deflecting the shame, projecting, because they just don't want anything to do with themselves. But yeah, let's see what people are saying in the live chat. I hope the noise isn't too loud for you. It was actually quite quiet for a few hours. It all begins. Because it's all about self-image. That was their issue in childhood. It was all about how they were being perceived by other people. So then they become very envious when they see someone who they perceive as superior to them. because then it's like, oh, you're taking the spotlight away, as though you're a better version of them. That's how they see it, because they view you as their extension, as an extension of themselves. Hello, Viva Survivor. Welcome to the live video. Yeah, great comment, Survivor. She says the body holds the stress. That's it. I mean, we're just vessels, we're containers for their stress. So they have a lot of anxiety. They have a lot of stress. I mean, of course they would, because just think about all of the things that they've done to people, all of the problems that they've caused. How can anyone like that feel any peace? Of course, they're always panicking, they're always paranoid. They're always thinking about supply, they're always thinking about how they can feel better. Many of them are engaged in addictions. So they need a vessel, a container to put their stress in. And of course, they have to be around someone who's kind, compassionate, someone who's going to take that on, someone who's got plenty of room, someone who normally is very at peace with themselves, someone who's very happy, calm. Now that type of person is going to be able to take on a lot of stress, rather than someone who's bad, toxic, dysfunctional, someone who's done a lot of horrible things to people. That person might snap at any moment. They're not going to be able to take on other people's stress. So this reveals, if you are a narcissist source of supply, a primary source, their emotional regulator, you are very pure. You're uncontaminated. Which means that in terms of toxicity, your vessel, your container is empty. So there's plenty of toxicity that they can pour into you to fill you up. That's how it works. So yeah, they get you to hold their stress. They get you to worry, they get you to be anxious, so that they don't have to feel that way. And this is how it seems they can do so many crazy things and not even worry about it, because they're getting you to worry about it. They're making it your fault, they're making you responsible. But actually that only helps them temporarily, and that's why they've got to keep you around as a source of supply. Because it doesn't matter what they think in their minds, they're still them. They're still responsible for their actions, regardless of how they think or how they try to distort things. And that's why it continues to affect them. Well, as for us, it only affects us as long as we're around them. it continues to affect them, even if they leave us, even if they discard us. And this is how, if they go off somewhere else, they just destroy the next person. They just make the next person miserable and stressed out as well. Then they come back to us because just not being around us, that doesn't help them. That might make them a lot worse. But as for us, of course, it makes us better, and that's why they're the ones using us for supply. They're using us as a container for their stress. They're dumping all of their problems, their responsibilities onto us, because they're the ones who need us. So of course, they're not better without us, they're even worse. But we are far better without them. I apologize for the insulting comments and the projections and all of that. There's no moderator in here yet, so there will be a lot of weirdos here. I mean, that's just it. You're always going to get people coming in, telling you what they think of you, who they think you are. And it's like, you may not have done anything wrong. All you're doing is trying to help people. You're trying to make things better. But to these types of people, there is no problem. There's nothing wrong. They're quite comfortable laying in their own filth. They've been doing that their entire lives. They don't want to change anything. So if you're the light in that situation, you're trying to expose things, you're trying to make things better, then to them, you're the problem. Something must be wrong with you, is how they're going to see it, because they're quite comfortable with it. They don't see anything wrong with it. Narcissists have been living this way their entire lives. So why would they want to change anything? And it kind of reminds me of that that old movie, The Wicker Man. I don't know if many of you know about The Wicker Man. It was filmed in the UK, in an island near Ireland or Scotland. I can't remember who starred in it. His name, it was Christopher something, same name as me. But yeah, it's a brilliant movie. And it's pretty much just a normal, helpful British police officer going to this island of pagans who make these sacrifices, these human sacrifices, and trying to tell them that there's a problem with what they're doing and how it's wrong to sacrifice this little girl to the gods. for their crops to be able to grow. But then it turns out he ended up being the sacrifice, which makes sense because he's the one who saw something wrong with it. So in their minds, he's the problem, because they don't see anything wrong with sacrificing people in order for their crops to grow. And this is exactly what it's like when you're dealing with a bunch of narcissists. In their minds, it's you, because you're the one exposing them. You're the one calling them out. And they've been living this way their entire lives. They don't see anything wrong with abuse. They don't see anything wrong with having dysfunctional families, with mistreating people. They're quite comfortable with it. I mean, it's like the same thing as if you went into someone's home and maybe they had a pile of garbage on the floor, or just a bunch of clothes laying everywhere. Now, to you, that might seem strange, and all of that garbage, it might smell. But to them, that's normal. That's how they live every day. So in their minds, it's you. You're the problem. You just have to leave. You just have to get out of the house, because they can't smell anything. They don't see anything wrong with having a bunch of garbage on the floor. So it's you. That's how it is with them. But then at the same time, they need you for your supply, for your kindness and compassion. They need you to be accommodating to them and their dysfunction, because then that makes them feel better about themselves. Because deep down, yes, they know there's something wrong with them. Yeah. Paramount Inn says, if I set up a camera, it would be like some shit out of Paranormal Activity. Sorry, I swore then. Didn't mean to. It's just because there's so much noise here. It's difficult to think straight. So I'm just reading what's in front of me here. But yeah, this is what you got to understand about narcissists. I mean, many of you're thinking as though there's a problem with you, as though you're not good enough. You need to do more. You need to be better. That's not what it is. The problem is you're too good. The problem is you're very innocent. You're unaware. You're pure. You're just a genuine, good-hearted person who wants things to be better. But then from their perspective, it's like, you want what to be better? There is no problem. The problem is you for pointing things out. You should just go along with it and pretend like it doesn't exist. Otherwise, you're a problem for them. Now that's how they see it. So that's what the problem is. The problem is that you didn't just go along with it. You didn't just act like nothing was wrong. It's not that you weren't good enough. And that's how they have a duplicity to them. They have a dual nature. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But really the real them is more like Mr. Hyde. The Dr. Jekyll is just to lure you in, to manipulate you. The real person underneath the mask is evil. There's nothing good about them. Horrible people. They mean you no well. They want to destroy you. And that's what's at their core, is wanting to destroy you. And that's all they want to do. They don't want anything to be better because of what you see wrong in them. And that's what makes them feel very uncomfortable around you. That's why they can't stand you, because they don't want to self-reflect. They don't want to do the work. Think about it. If they wanted to do the work, they would have done the work a long time ago. And look at where their attention is directed towards. Is it directed towards making anything better? Does it look like that's their priority? Look at the things that they're doing. Does it look like they care about making anything right? They don't. That's why their priorities are more towards garnering supply in any form that they can get it, whether it's positive attention or playing the victim, garnering sympathy, just blaming you, punishing you, whatever they have to do to get supply. Never to self-reflect, never to take accountability, never to make things better, because they're not concerned about that. Doesn't matter what they say, doesn't matter how, in which way they try to manipulate you, it's just manipulation. The best you will ever get from them is an illusion. Because if someone wants to do the work, they would just do the work, they would just do it. They wouldn't talk about it, they wouldn't fuss about it, they wouldn't make a big scene about it, they wouldn't need to talk about it. They need to do any of that. They would just do it. They don't do it because they have problems, they have trauma. They have so many things going on with them, they can't even think about making anything better. They have to make things worse because they've got all of this trauma inside of them. They've got all of these problems that have never been resolved internally. And they have to pour that out onto the external environment to purge themselves of their own impurities. Well, as for you, you don't really have that. You don't have that type of trauma. Because you don't have that type of trauma, they then use you as a vessel, a container. Because you don't have that. If you had a lot of trauma, they wouldn't be able to fill you up with it. That wouldn't be possible. Just like as you try to hold them accountable, you try and tell them to do anything, to make anything better. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do anything for you because they're already full of trauma. So they can't take on any duties, any responsibilities. They can't do anything for you. But someone who's pure, someone who has a good, kind heart, someone who's compassionate, now that type of person can do a lot because they're full of compassion. They're not full of trauma, dysfunction. And you would experience this yourself. I'm sure many of you have experienced this already. What happens when they pile all of their emotional baggage, their emotional trauma onto you? You just can't even think straight. It slows you down. It slows everything down for you. It slows down your mental and emotional processes. You can't think clearly or properly. It's like 1 minute you had all of these things planned out for the day, and then suddenly, now all you want to do is sleep. Now you don't want to do anything because they've then offloaded their emotional baggage onto you. And you can't take it on anything at all. You can't do anything. And that's what it's like for them every day, because that's their emotional baggage. That's what they go through every day. And that's why they're looking for supply. They're looking for kind, compassionate people who they can offload that onto, because then it lightens the load. Then it makes them feel more powerful. Like they can move, they're more free now. They feel lighter because they've offloaded that onto you. It's how it works. So why would they want anything to be better? It's like, what? Yeah, let's make the world better, just so they can feel even worse inside. Because they're not going to get supply from that. From everyone else being happy, everyone else being functional and in harmony with each other. But they've still got all this baggage or this trauma inside of them that they can't deal with. And they can't even offload it onto anyone then, because then they're going to look like the problem. It's going to make them feel even worse. That's why they have to create chaos. They have to create drama, dysfunction in the world, in the environment, because by doing that, they then feel better about themselves and it becomes normalized. And this is why these types of people, they always like to cause drama. They always like to just point out something wrong that people are doing, accuse people of things, because then there's another opportunity for them to offload, to purge themselves of their impurities, or making it seem like it's someone else's fault. It's very clever, very indirect how they do it. It's very strategic. And they're very good at doing that, at making it look like it's the good person who is bad, and then they play the victim. This is how most of the time narcissists tend to win in court cases. Paramountain says, this is not a world for empaths, it's a world for animals. You know, I do think about it sometimes. What are we doing here? In a world where most people are narcissists, what is the point? What is the purpose of being an empath in this world? Because it's like, we're not going to fix anything for these people. We're not going to change them. We're not going to make them better. We're not going to make them see the errors of their ways. That's never going to happen. So the only logical conclusion is that we're here for each other. Or maybe we're here for the next generation, for the children. Viva Spiver says, oh gosh, The Wicker Man. It's a brilliant movie though, that is. That's one of my favourite old movies. I just can't remember the name of the police officer, the actor's name. It's not Christopher Nolan, that's Batman. Oh, I can't remember it. But that's how it should be. You know, you should feel like the police officer in the Wicker Man movie. That's how you should feel in today's world. Like I used to think I was good. I used to think I was doing well because I fitted in very well with people. I was always super popular when I was younger. But actually now, looking at it, looking back, it's a really bad thing if you fit in this world. If you fit in with other people, something is seriously wrong. Because most people today are messed up. Just look at the things that they do. Just look at the things that they think are okay. We should not fit in with these types of people. Lydia, the chosen one, says, every time I fix myself up, he tries to knock my self-esteem back down and blames me for everything. That's right, because they have a disorder. They're mentally ill. They do not want you to improve. They don't want you to heal. And just think about it. Why would they want you to heal? They're the ones who are abusing you. And they're the very same people that they're all connected. They've always been abusing you. It's the same personality, and many of you may see it. The people that you meet in these relationships, these narcissists, it's the same personality as your parent may have had. It's like the exact same person, a different body. They behave the exact same way. It's like they're just carrying on where your parent left off. And typically, what do? They work together. They team up against you because they know they're the same. They don't want anything to be better. They want to keep people down. They want everyone to be messed up just like them. They don't want anyone to heal. They are not promoting healing. They just find ways to justify abuse. So yeah, they will always knock you back down. They will always blame you. They're not going to uplift you. They're not going to encourage you. Because they do not want things to go up. They do not want things to get better. They want things to go down. And they want us to feel like something is wrong with us, as though we're bad at the effect of their actions. So they're trying to trick us. It's almost like we're angels, and they're trying to convince us that we're demons as a result of the things that they have done to us, rather than something that we're doing of our own accord. Well, that's what they're doing. So think about that. It's very interesting. Irani says these narcissists are sick in their minds. They are sick in the mind, they are. But if anyone ever gets fed up and starts talking about it, then suddenly that person's the problem now. Like, you're not even allowed to call them out on it. It's crazy. It's like you can't even talk about it without them then blaming you. It's nuts. Someone needs to start a movement for this. People should not be afraid to point out what they see, to point out people's actions. Like if you see someone acting like a mentally ill person acts, you should be allowed to just point it out and just say, this person's mentally ill. But it's like everyone has to walk on eggshells around these people. But then they can do that to you. And now that's what they're doing now, these days. Now there's a bunch of covert narcissists out there who are blaming victims and calling victims narcissists. It's crazy. But this is how you know you're dealing with one, because the victim is always trying to talk about it, resolve it. They want things to be better. They want a resolution. They want to make things right. The narcissist is the one who's pretending like everything's fine. Everything's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's normal. That's what the narcissist is like. Well, as for us, we have to go through it. We have to deal with all of the problems. We have to deal with all of their stress. Because we're the victims. And that's just how it goes. Because that's just it. I mean, narcissists, they don't get stressed by that. They enjoy dysfunctional environments. They like problems. They like chaos. They enjoy it. They like getting into it. All right, see you, Aaron Michael. Hope it goes well for you. Irani says, narcissists see you as a dangerous person for speaking the truth. That's right. Because then you're a threat to their false image. But they don't mind spreading lies about you. It's all just an image to them. It's like they have this high school mentality. It's like, I don't know, I mean, maybe they didn't have many friends in school. Maybe they didn't get much attention and they wanted to. And now they just seem to live the rest of their lives that way. As though it's like some high school popularity contest. It's like Mean Girls. with all of the gossiping, the slander, the triangulation, the jealousy. Many of these narcissists have histrionic traits, just like Regina George. John Tracy says, when you don't play along with the role they assign to you, watch out. That's right, you've got to play the role that they want. Everything's got to follow their script. It's like a little girl playing with her dolls. You're just like a doll to the narcissist. Give it a thumbs up if you're finding it helpful so far. Irani says, narcissists only drag you down because you're determined to progress in life and build a new life for yourself and future. These narcissists want to sabotage. That's right, they're just extremely jealous. They really are. I mean, they're just looking at everything you got. And they're idealizing you. They're seeing it as though you're this full package of a person. Like, I don't know, maybe you got the qualities, characteristics, the genetics. You just got it all together. Or even if you're not quite there yet, you're working on it. It's looking like you're about to achieve it. And they're just so jealous. And they see it in such a cringy, superficial way. I mean, you know, a narcissist think they're looking at it like, oh, you're going to get all of the attention, all of the validation. Everyone's going to be looking at you. Everything's going to be so wonderful, so perfect for you. They're going to be left out of it. And it's like they just project this mentality onto you as though that's how you're seeing it, or that's how you're thinking about it. Because remember, everything they do is for themselves. They're not thinking about it as though you're just trying to be the best person that you can be so that you can be better for someone else or for this world. They're not thinking that way. But even then, they wouldn't care because they don't care about anyone other than themselves. It's just all about themselves. And that's how it's so easy for them to sabotage people. Because it's all about their own ego. They just can't get over themselves. They can't get over the fact that they're just not good enough. They're just no good. And even they know they're no good because just look at them. They lack self-belief. They're not even trying to be better. They're not even trying to improve themselves. They're not trying to do more. But that's the first thing you're going to do if you have belief in yourself. If you believe that you can improve yourself, you can be better, you're probably going to spend more time doing that rather than worrying about someone else climbing the ladder and trying to pull them down. You're not going to care. You're going to be more in your own lane, focused on yourself. Or that person may even inspire you. They may motivate you to be better as well. But this is it. They can't get over their own egos. They can't accept that they're not good enough, as good as they need to be on the same level as someone else who they may be comparing themselves with. But that's another thing as well, because I mean, a lot of people do this today, and it's just so stupid. It's like, what's the point in comparing yourself to, I don't know, to like some famous 20-year-old tennis player from the other side of the world, when you're not even passionate about tennis, you're not even interested in it. Unless it's like all you care about is the lifestyle, the money, the cars, the fame. That's so superficial, it's so empty. What about the passion? What about the meaning, the purpose behind it? But this is what most people are like these days, and this is how they get so jealous. And to where they end up sabotaging people because they can't stay in their own lane. They can't just focus on themselves and their own lives. And it's just pathetic. BK says, it's all a test, Chris. Will you give in to the devil? Not me. I'll take my pride to the grave and bow down to the Almighty. You know, I've been tempted so many times. I mean, well, I haven't, it's not that I felt tempted. It's more people have tried to tempt me. And every time that happens, I just can't take it seriously. I just kind of laugh about it. Because to me, it just seems so silly. And I feel like for a true chosen one, a true empath, I don't think it's even possible for us to sell our souls. We can't even do anything with ill intentions. Unless maybe we're temporarily under mind control or hypnosis of the narcissist. But then, even then, it's like everything we do it with love. It's like we don't even have that option. In some ways, it's like we don't even have the free will like narcissists do. Honestly, I feel that way sometimes. It's like they can just go and do whatever they want. But us as chosen ones, empaths, especially when we awaken, we don't even have that option anymore. So I don't think it's even a case for us of whether or not we eventually cave in and sell our souls. I don't even think we have the option to do that. And almost in some ways, it's like sometimes situations pan out in a certain way, in a way where it's just impossible for us to do that, even if we wanted to. Like, we have to follow a certain course. We can't do what they do. We're not allowed to follow that path. But I would wonder, I mean, hypothetically speaking, if I was like a crazy narcissist, if I was an abuser, if I was ruthlessly exploiting people, I would be very worried. I would be wondering, Why isn't God, the universe, stopping me from doing this? Why doesn't God or the universe care about me? I mean, is that not just a reprobate mind? Is that not how it is for narcissists? Is it that God just doesn't care about them? God lets them do these things. God lets them get away with it. God just doesn't intervene with them anymore. But as for me, there's something inside of me that stops me. It won't let me do the things that they do. It's like I'm not allowed. It's like I have a different mission, a different purpose. I'm going somewhere else. It's very interesting, because they try to hold on to us. But yeah, personally, I'm glad I have that. I'm glad that I stay out of those types of things. I don't get involved in those types of activities. And I used to care a lot. I used to try and stop people. I used to try and help them. I used to try and convince them, almost to the point where people may think that I'm trying to manipulate them. But actually now it's gotten to the point where I don't care so much anymore. I've accepted that if these people were meant for something else, if they were meant for a higher purpose, if God or the universe really cared about them, then I think they would be doing something about them. They wouldn't just be continuing with what they're doing. I mean, as it was for me, I had my spiritual awakening. I changed everything about my life, everything about myself. I mean, I'm still me, but I changed my behaviors. I became much healthier. But it's not like that for them. So it does seem as though God or the universe cares about certain people a lot more than others. And it just keeps coming back to how some of us must be chosen ones. And initially, I didn't really take it seriously. I mean, yes, there's so many events in my life where it's like, I must be a chosen one. I had so many near-death experiences as a child, so many spiritual experiences, so many visions, so many incredible things have happened to me, extremely rare things that, out of billions of people in the world, it's like I'm the only one who might have had that happen to me. I'm the only one who could have made that happen. No one else could have done it. But yeah, there's just so many things. I see so many references. Just the other day, I saw something in my subscriber count. It said 777. Just after I went live on YouTube. And then 2 minutes later, then I saw 1111 in the views. It's just so many coincidences. And I know what people say about the RAS, the reticular activating system. But that's the thing, because half the time I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not even looking for it. It's like it's looking for me. Like I just forget about these things, but it's like out of nowhere I see it all the time. So I'm not 100% convinced, but I definitely have some level of belief that there is something out there. that maybe I do have a higher self, that I do have some spiritual purpose which is much greater than this. And I think many of you do, especially if you're in a smear campaign, or if you're being gang stalked, and especially if you're someone with a pure heart, with good intentions. Not someone like P. Diddy, of course, because I don't think he's a chosen one, even though his reputation has been ruined. But obviously that's different. He's done some horrific things to people. But as for chosen ones, I think it's more people misread us. Or maybe we may be a test for people. And I've always believed that. I've always believed that just good, kind-hearted people who maybe have quite weak boundaries and maybe they're prone to being exploited. For me, I see that as a test. When you know that you can take advantage of someone if you wanted to, but then it's like, do you? Because probably before you weren't thinking that way. You may have been unaware of it. Because normally we don't think that way, but then when it's being done to us, now we're on that same wavelength. We start to see things that way as well. And typically what might happen then is the opportunity might present itself to you. And then it's like, do you do it? Do you pass the test? So I've always seen it that way. But honestly, for me, it's like, I couldn't do anything like that anyway, because you know, I just have something inside of me. I have a conscience. I could never do what these narcissists do to people. And I just don't understand how they do it. It's, you know, you do something to someone, you exploit them, you harm them. For what? Just for a moment of gratification. And then you've got to live with it for the rest of your life. Because even though they're not going to care so much about the other person and what they've done to them and how it's going to affect their life, but they're going to be left feeling bad about themselves at the very least. Because remember, it's all about themselves. But of course, for me as an empath, it wouldn't be so much about me. It would be more about the other person. And that's what they do. They play on our empathy. They guilt trip us. So really, at some level, they must know that we are empaths and that we are chosen ones. Because otherwise, from their thinking, it would be, how could they exploit empathy if you don't have it? How can they play the victim and then use that to manipulate you and get something out of you if you're not an empath? I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. Unless, of course, as they do, sometimes they play the victim, they play the role of an empath to garner sympathy or support. And maybe sometimes they could get tricked by doing that. because that's also a way to manipulate a narcissist as well. When they're giving you this false character, just hold them up to it, and expect them, pressure them to do what the false character is supposed to do in line with their image. So they could see it as though that's just what we're doing, and they may not actually see that you're genuine. They may just see it as though you're doing what they're doing. Again, the 11:11. It said 92 minutes and 11 seconds in the time for how long I've gone live, and then also 111 live viewers. What were the odds of me seeing that? This just comes up all the time. I'm not even looking for it. Jay Nelson says, I feel like the guy in the Matrix who wants to go back. I watched The Matrix, I think I was in 2000, maybe 1 year after it came out. Just moved into this this new house with my father, and I was just sitting on the floor of the lounge. I don't think we even had furniture in there yet, but we had a television. So I was just sitting on the floor, switched on the TV. It was The Matrix. And yeah, that scene really stuck out to me. That scene where he wanted to go back, and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why he'd want to go back to the Matrix. And I'll never forget that line, ignorance is bliss. Because for me, I would never want to go back to the Matrix. That would be my worst nightmare. Because that was what hurt me. Being asleep, being around all of these people and not knowing what they really are. That's what caused all the problems for me in my life. And if I had known about this before, then none of that would have happened. So, realizing that, it should extinguish any desire that you have to go back to the Matrix. Because it's not going to be any good for you if you take that blue pill. But that's just it. I mean, you can't go back to the Matrix really anyway. Once you've taken the red pill, there is no going back. Because even in the movie, when he's eating the steak, he says ignorance is bliss. So he still knows. He still knows that it's just electrical signals going to and from the brain. And it's not actually a real steak. But yeah, that movie was ahead of its time. Because now we're starting to see that, yes, everything, it's all just made up of particles. And even those particles, we don't know if it's real. It's all just interpreted by our brains, by electrical signals. So we interact with it as though it's real, because of course we're plugged into it. But I think it's good to have the awareness that none of this is actually real. There's no moderator in you. So there's all these trolls. And everyone always says bro as well. I used to think that was in reference to, because I'm from the UK. And of course in the UK, a lot of people say bro. But then also I noticed Terry Joel Jr., he says bro a lot in his videos. So I don't know if these trolls are mimicking him or... But they like to make little references. There's a lot of comments here. I'm just scrolling through the live chat. BK says this is all a matrix and we're all in a computer program, a bunch of NPCs. You know, I was watching a few music videos from some old rock and metal, such as Metallica and some other bands. And yeah, there was a lot of references to that in those music videos, of how we're in a simulation and a lot of people here are NPCs. There's also the backdrop theory of how, of course, there aren't 130 billion souls, you know, based on there being 130 billion people who've been in the world so far. So that must mean that many of them don't actually have a soul and aren't genuine people. And in fact, they may just be backdrop people. And honestly, it does feel that way sometimes when I interact with people. It seems as though some of them aren't really there. Some of them don't really have a soul. really far behind in these comments here. Oh wait, I've caught up now. But yeah, sun's gone down. I got my microphone there because I just recorded tonight's video earlier today, which will be premiering in about 8 hours. I've just got to go and finish the editing, because so far I've only edited maybe the first 3 or 4 minutes of a 12-minute video. So I'm going to go and finish that off and get it uploaded for today. But yeah, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining me on this live video, and I hope that it has helped you. If it has, give it a thumbs up down below, and if you'd like to support the channel, you are welcome to donate to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you'd like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just head to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And if you're not following me on Instagram yet, definitely follow me, and you can see my content, my travels on there. It is Narc Survivor YouTube on Instagram. Alright, that's it for this live video. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.